Hi there. One more episode for you. And we have traveled and we are going to travel all over the place because today I am going to get you something a little different. Something that we see all around. And that is an episode on the trees in Goa. We have taken a lot of trees for granted that they are Goan. Many of them are not. And many of them have come to Goa and become citizens of this land, tree citizens of this land. But to get you the authentic information about the trees, I have with me a good friend of mine, Dr. Miguel Braganza. Dr. Miguel Braganza is one of the noted agriculturist, a very personal friend of mine, and ladies and gentlemen, he is the recipient of the President of India badge for scouting and for rowers. And he has been teaching at the Don Bosco College of Agriculture at Sulcorna. And also, today we have brought him here to give you authentic information because he is also the secretary of the Botanical Society of Goa, who organizes the Konkani Fruit Festival, brings to you a lot of mangoes and other fruits over here. Welcome to my program, Miguel Bab, called My Goem. In fact, there are people all over the world who are going to be surprised when you tell them about the trees. Now we are here in Panjim, right on the banks of the Khazan land, and the Khazan lands have got a lot of trees called as mangroves. So can you tell us something about these mangroves?
We have 16 different species of mangroves in Goa. What we see behind here is what we study in school, the Abyssinia, which has breathing roots called pneumatophores, which help it to survive in waterlogged condition. This is a tree that grows along the river banks of the Zuari and the Mandovi river. We don't find much of this on the other rivers. They grow in salty intertidal mud flats, what we call.
Okay.
At high tide they are underwater, at low tide they are exposed.
Okay.
It's a very high salinity soil in which other plants don't grow.
And the roots that you say, the pneumatophore, they actually breathe.
They actually breathe because the roots even to grow require oxygen.
Okay.
And this oxygen is transferred by the pneumatophores from the air to the deeper roots inside so that they may grow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, now here we have a tree whose roots grow reverse way against the gravitational force. And what could be the benefit of mangrove? Because I think cutting mangroves is not allowed.
It's prohibited, yes. The mangroves are very important plants. They grow in the estuaries, places where the sweet water of the river and the salt water of the ocean mix.
Okay.
This has the lower level of salinity and it is protected from the storms. And this is where mackerels and other fish come to breed. They get the roe, what we call as gaboi.
Gaboi.
And then they produce the eggs and the young ones in the mangrove area. The crabs also breed over here.
Okay.
And from here they go back to the sea. So if the mangroves are cut, you will not even get the marine fish because it's unable to breed.
There you are. We Goans, we always pride ourselves with being fish eaters. If we don't allow them to breed over here and we start cutting these mangroves, then we'll be left with no fish. So here you are, one reason for the mangroves not to be cut.
There is another reason to it. And that was seen very much when there was a tsunami in 2004. The mangroves are better protection against tidal waves than concrete structures.
Okay.
In Japan and Indonesia, concrete structures broke with the force of the tsunami. But the mangroves can bend. They break the force of the tsunami without themselves being broken. Okay. And it's a very good protection, and we have to encourage the growth of mangroves along India's coast, especially in Goa,
so that the land can be saved in case of any natural disaster.
Yes.
Do not allow these mangroves to be cut. If you find somebody cutting it, call the authorities and tell them, because no mangroves, no survival. I am leaving you to see what the mangroves look like and the roots that grow against gravity. In Goa, it is said that we had around 53 forts. There's a beautiful book written by Dr. P.P. Shirodkar on the forts and fortresses of Goa. And in every fort, the symbol of power is the cannon. And these cannons, they used many items which we call as ammunition, and they were called as cannonballs. Some cannonballs were made out of full metal, some of them were carved out of granite, and there were some which were even hollow, which had the gunpowder inside and which burst when it. So also in Goa, we came, in fact, it is thanks to Mr. Pinto of Santa Cruz, who gave us the permission to bring to you a tree which is called as the Cannonball Tree. And like you know, we have got our expert, Dr. Miguel Braganza, and he is going to tell us something that is really exciting. So Miguel Bob, can you tell us something about this Cannonball Tree?
The Cannonball Tree, when you see it, you get surprised that there are flowers hanging on the side of the trunk. And people think it must be some other plant that is growing on it. When you come closer, you realize that those flowers are of that tree coming down in the middle, like maybe we get jackfruits. But completely different in the form of various colored flowers.
Yeah.
And something that catches the attention is the cannonball. The fruit, the first question that comes from people who, when they see the fruit, can we eat it?
Yes.
Actually, you can. But the fact is nobody eats because it stinks.
It stinks.
The smell is bad and it puts you off from wanting to eat it.
Okay.
So it is normally fed to pigs and to poultry,
okay,
which don't mind the smell. Possibly people who like to eat durian,
okay,
may be able to bear its smell.
Miguel Bab, there is another thing. The flowers of this particular tree, they are very unique.
Yes.
What is this?
Yes, actually this flower is so beautiful and very beautifully arranged that it attracts bees even without having nectar.
Oh, it doesn't have nectar?
It does not have nectar,
okay,
but it has pollen which the bees want,
okay,
and the pollen is very attractively placed,
okay,
even better than in sunflower.
Really?
It has one ring of anthers,
yes,
which you can see here at the base,
mm-hmm,
and then another set which is on top,
yes,
which is like the hoods of a snake.
Of a snake? Oh yes, it does.
And the whole arrangement looks like a linga,
okay,
and the snakes around Shiva.
Okay.
And so this flower is commonly known as the Kailashpati in India,
okay,
and planted mostly near Shiva temples.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to see this flower. There is a linga-like structure in the middle, and this top part is like the hood of a cobra. And this round around it looks like a lotus. Now, in fact, I heard that this particular flower costs around 50 rupees in Mumbai. I am not very sure of that. But yes, this does look like the flower dedicated to Shiva. What is the botanical name for this?
The botanical name of this plant is Scoropita guineensis, coming very specifically about Guinea,
okay,
where this plant was first identified and named.
So this tree, if you see it in Goa, actually comes from Guinea. And if you come to Santa Cruz, the Pinto family has preserved this tree in such a beautiful way that any person who passes the road to Kalapur or Santa Cruz, you just cannot miss this tree. You know, if you go in front of any temple, you find a banyan tree or a peepal tree, and they are there for a reason. Do you know that in front of every church there was this tree that you see behind me, the tall tree that is there? We called it the Nagin tree or the Java olive tree. Now, let us find out what this tree was doing in front of the church. Miguel Bob, can you tell us about this tree?
This particular tree, which is scientifically known as Sterculia fetida,
Sterculia fetida.
because when its fruits open, there is a bad smell, a fetid smell.
Oh.
So that's how the name Sterculia fetida.
Sterculia fetida. Fetida means because it smells.
In Konkani, this plant is known as the madi.
The madi.
And the tradition is on the day of the farmer,
Okay.
the madi is buried in front or planted in front of the church.
Okay.
Yeah, normally there's a flag on top of it,
Yes.
And quite often a photograph of the saint whose feast is going to be celebrated.
Okay.
Now many people confuse madi for the areca nut tree,
Okay.
which is not the case. Actually, this is the madi, Sterculia fetida,
Okay.
which is also known as the jungly badam. And this tree protects any structure near it from lightning.
Okay.
Now, when you have a church, there is always a bell, a
Made
big
out of metal.
which is rung to call the people for mass, for angelus, for various hours of the day it is rung. And so this bell is very important and was more important in the era when people didn't have wristwatches and there was no time on their mobile and calculator, and they needed to know the time. Then the church bell was the one that informed them about the change of time. So the bell was important and the bell had to be protected, and the job of this tree was to protect the bell from being broken by lightning.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, you know, in Goa, we have got around 130 to 140 inches of rain. Monsoons are very fierce, and at the beginning of the monsoon and at the end of the monsoon, it heralds its coming and going by lightning, and the lightning strikes. It's a huge bolt of electricity, gets attracted to metal, and the best thing at a height is the bell. So when they constructed the churches all over Goa, in the old photographs you can see this in front of the Margaon church, the Rashol church, the Thivi church. So many photographs are there showing this tree in front, and this tree was planted when the foundation of the building was put up, so that it grew when the steeple of the church was constructed and the bell was fitted inside. And by the way, the bell being put in a bell tower was brought here by the Augustinian priests. So now you know that in front of the churches why this tree was built. Forget about the churches. Ladies and gentlemen, you spend a lot on lightning conductors in your buildings, the high-rise buildings, the societies. All you have to do, please plant this tree, about 2-3 of them, and your colony, your tall house is going to be protected from lightning. See, My Goem brings you a cost-effective way of saving yourself from the lightning. Thanks to Mingal Bab, because he has broken the secret to all of us.
In addition to controlling lightning, it also gives you the fruit.
Okay.
The reason why it's called jangli badam is because this is a wild tree that gives you a seed in which there is kernel that tastes something like the almond. But in many of the cities, we don't know that this is edible.
Okay, but once you eat it, I think you get intoxicated.
If you eat too many of them, then you feel slightly giddy and intoxicated. Ideally, you should eat less than 10 seeds in a day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, now you know that if you eat too many of the kernels of this seed, then you go high like this tree. And do you know where these badams or the false badams are formed? They are formed in
The fruit here.
this is the pod. This closes, okay, and they are there inside. It closes like this. But the name given to this tree is the Nagin tree, and Nagin means a female cobra, and the female cobra has got a hood, and the hood is this. So ladies and gentlemen, every time you are in Goa, when you reach a church or a high place, look out for this tree. This is called as the Java olive or the Nagin tree, or what Miguel Bab informs us, Sterculia fetida. Don't go to smell the fruits. Bad smell. Let's move on to the next tree now. So ladies and gentlemen, from looking at trees in the suburban areas of Goa, we came into one of the most scenic places called as Naushe. Now Naushe is between Siridao and Dona Paula, and it is such a beautiful village, a fishing village basically, that I had to come over here so that you can see the beauty of Goa. Across over there is the Siridao chapel dedicated to the Jesus of Nazareth, and where they have the famous Pejeche fest, the Kanji festival. Behind, if you go straight, you get Dona Paula. But we have come over here with our good friend Miguel, Dr. Miguel Braganza, because there is one tree in this place, very predominant. I have never seen so many trees of this type anywhere else in Goa. And the tree is just above me. This is called as the Adao tree. I remember in my childhood, and I am sure that you also must have played this game. It's a small brown colored fruit with 2 or 3 seeds inside, and we used to use these seeds to play. Doctor, can you please tell us where the origin of this tree is and why it grows very selectively?
This tree is related to the chiku tree.
Chiku tree?
Yeah.
Okay.
Earlier, they had made a separation between chiku and vaola or bakul.
Okay.
They put to vaola and bakul, Mimosops elengi, and as a separate species and genus from sapota or chiku, which was called Acras sapota.
Okay.
Whereas this was called as Mimosops cocci and Mimosops elengi.
So what is the name of the Adao tree?
Manilkara cocci.
Manilkara cocci.
Cocci.
And where is the origin of this tree? Any particular country as such?
This tree is supposed to be there from the Indo-China area, stretching right down till Malaysia and Indonesia.
Okay.
The tree.
So basically, it is not an original tree of Goa.
It's not an original tree of Goa. Possibly it has come from Macau or from Borneo or Timor when the sailors, traders were coming up and down, either during the time of the Portuguese or before when the Chinese were trading with this with Goa.
So ladies and gentlemen, when you come here to this area and you can't find Naushe, the simplest way to see this tree is head directly for the Siridao beach, and along the road you go right up to the church of Jesus of Nazareth, and in the compound you can see 3 huge trees, the Adao trees. And one thing that has always been a big question mark on my head, why doesn't this tree grow everywhere? We have the seeds. I used to have a tin of seeds. I'm sure many of you also will remember that. But doctor, when all these seeds have been falling down here, why don't they grow?
The seeds have a very hard seed coat. It's almost like a coconut shell.
Okay.
And the seed needs to germinate and come out through this.
Okay.
So either it has to soften in some animals' intestines, or it has to soften in the acidic soil, or we have to soften it by acid scarification, or maybe just break the shell a little bit with a small hammer.
Physically break.
Physically, or using a cutting plier.
Okay.
Physically break the tip so that it can germinate and come out easily.
So from this tree, let us hop onto another tree which was not the original resident of Goa, but came to Goa with all the traders who came from China, or who came from Macau, who came from Africa, who came from Brazil. And talking about Brazil, let's see another tree that came from somewhere there. So ladies and gentlemen, from the village of Naushe next to Siridao, we drove to Old Goa. Behind me you can see the St. Augustine's Tower, the ruins, and just for your information, the first bell towers were brought here in Goa by the Augustinians, and that is of Our Lady of Grace, Nossa Senhora de Graça Church, today in ruins. But we have not come here right now to see the church, because we have with us Dr. Miguel Braganza, who is an expert on the plants. He loves to tell you about the plants, and here we have come to tell you about one of our resident Goan trees, which you all know, called as the Nirponos or the breadfruit tree. And if you think that it is Goan by origin, no. And this myth of yours is broken by our good friend Dr. Miguel Braganza. Doctor, is this fellow the breadfruit from Goa?
No, the breadfruit actually is from Polynesia and Micronesia. First, it was found by someone you associate with your kitchen. By Captain Cook.
By Captain Cook?
On his journey to Tahiti,
okay,
he found this tree. And later on, because of the talk about this tree, Captain Bligh was commissioned to go to Tahiti along with a botanist and a gardener to make grafts of this tree and bring them to West Indies. Okay. This was 1789.
Okay.
This tree would not have become popular except for one very tragic incident which caught the fascination of Europe. And has become a film, the Mutiny on the Bounty.
Okay.
Fletcher, who was assistant to Captain Bligh, was fed up with these people's fascination in making plants to take there, because they were tired of enjoying the breadfruit and coconut and the Polynesian girls, and they wanted to go away with lots of money.
Okay.
Because that is what they wanted. And so they threw out Captain Bligh in one rescue boat.
Okay.
And they threw out the plants, and all the mutineers came back with the ship. And incidentally, for people of Goa, Captain Bligh, in one open boat, reached Timor.
Timor, which was a Portuguese colony.
Portuguese colony, not yet then, And he reached Timor over there, and the breadfruit later on came to West Indies, to Europe and to Asia, and that is really a fruit that is like bread.
But do you know that the breadfruit, one of the most tasty dishes, you fry them and you don't even know whether it is veg or non-veg. It's so good. This is called as neer panas. Neer means water in Kannada. And doctor, why is it called as neer panas? Does it require a lot of water to grow?
It looks like jackfruit, and it grows where there is a lot of water. There is another version also to this neer panas, like we say neer fall, something that is fruitless.
Okay.
That way it is not panas, so neer panas.
Okay.
So that is another explanation of that word. Okay. But the fact is, more water it gets, the better the plant grows, the more fruit it gives you.
So ladies and gentlemen, this breadfruit which grows about this big looks very green in color. Neerpanas, or the breadfruit tree that you see behind me over here, is very endemic in India to Kerala and to Goa and in between. The people in the rest part of India does not know what a breadfruit looks like.
Absolutely. Some days back, friends of mine had come from Punjab, and we made nirpanas fadi and deep fried it and gave to them. And they said, "This is wonderful. Is it fish?"
So there you are. Think fish and eat nirpanas. So your vegetarian problem will be solved if you keep a bangda in front or a kingfish in front and eat this particular thing. You will not be able to tell the taste. I am not joking. What at one time used to just fall and get rotten, today it costs around 160 to 200 rupees in the market. So if you have got a tree, see that you give it a lot of water, lot of neer, and you will get big fruits like this. And then call me, I'll take them, don't worry. Okay? So now here is the breadfruit tree, and this is something that is found at many places in Goa. Got an opportunity? Buy a breadfruit. But for now, see the breadfruit tree.